Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. I know we still have some people joining us today. So this is Bridgett calling with C3 Communications. I just want to say welcome to everyone who's here already and welcome to the people who are still jumping on. C3 is really excited to present this webinar on crowdfunding impact with our co-presenters here, Breanna DiGiammarino and Leo Buck, who are both experts in using crowdfunding platforms online to create impact for particularly for nonprofit organizations. So we're really excited. This is a question that we get a lot at C3, and so we're really excited to share with our attendees today and with everyone who registers a bit more about how to do crowdfunding right from some experts who have really great experience in being able to do this well. So a bit more about C3 in case you don't know. C3, we call ourselves the digital agency for do-gooders, and we are a marketing agency for nonprofits and social causes. We do everything from communication strategy and organizational alignment to video production to web design and development, and we only work with nonprofits and social causes. So for us, it's really about creating impact and making the world a better place. And me personally, I'm the director of content strategy there, and I feel very lucky to be able to work with some of the clients like the ones that you see here and to help them move their missions forward. So before we get started, we just wanted to do a few quick poll questions to get a sense of who is on the webinar today, so that there's some content in here that we could gear a little differently depending on the experience that this crowd has with crowdfunding itself. So I'm going to launch a few polls here and ask a few quick questions to get a sense of who is on the webinar. So our first question, have you used crowdfunding to raise money for your nonprofit? So I just launched this poll and you can see options are yes, no, and not sure. See the votes coming in. Seeing we're at about 70% here. I'll give you another second just to get in those last few votes. All right, get those last votes in. I'm going to close the poll. Okay, and so now we can see the results. So this is interesting. We have a fairly even split. See a 50% no, 39% yes, and 11% not sure. So it looks like the experience here really varies, which is great. So now, have you used an online giving platform? Go to my next slide here. Have you used an online giving platform like Indiegogo to crowdfund in the past? So our options here are yes, no, but I have used other methods of crowdfunding, or no, I have not used crowdfunding to raise money for my nonprofit. So cool, I'm seeing pretty even split between the yes or have not used crowdfunding. Let's give you a few seconds left to get in those last few votes. We're at about 80%. All right. And here are our results. So if you have done any crowdfunding, it's been through an online platform like Indiegogo, or you have not done crowdfunding at all. So good to see. Now, our next question here, is your organization planning a Giving Tuesday campaign? So I'm seeing the votes coming in. We are getting a lot of sort of, but we don't have concrete plans. And a bunch of yes, we're excited to launch, which is great. All right, we are at 80%. I'll give you a few seconds to get those last votes in. Okay, and so again, it looks like a fairly even split. We have a few, about 40% of you say sort of, but we don't have concrete plans. Around 30% saying yes, and you're excited to launch, and around 27% saying no, help, which is something that we're familiar with at C3, working with a lot of nonprofits. All right, and one more question here. So how much do you hope to raise in your next fundraising campaign? All right, votes are coming in. We're at about 70%. Seeing a lot of people in that 11K to 20K range. And we're just around 80%. I'll give you a few seconds to get those last votes in. Okay, great. So we can see 26% of you are around less than 10K, 35% are 11K to 20K, 22% are 21K to 50K, and 17% are over 50K. Okay. And now this is our last poll question here. So what will the funds you raise help you achieve? So we've got A, increase your internal capacity, B, grow an existing program, C, launch a new program, D, increase advocacy or awareness building for your cause, or E, other. Seeing a lot of people saying they'd like to grow some existing programs, and seeing some more votes coming in for increasing advocacy and awareness building. All right, again, we're at around 80%, so I'll give you a few seconds to get those last votes in. Okay, and here are the results of our last poll. So we've got 15% of people saying increase internal capacity, 27% saying that they would grow an existing program, 19% saying they'd launch a new program, 27% saying they'd increase advocacy and awareness building for your cause, and 12% coming in at other. All right, and so those are all the polls we have. So just quickly, a bit more about myself, and then I will turn it over to my two co-presenters here today. So my name is Bridgett Colling. I work at C3 as, like I mentioned, the Director of Content Strategy. So I split my time between doing all the internal marketing for C3, our blog, email, social media, anything. So if you are attending this webinar because you got an email from us, that's me. I'm behind all of our internal marketing. I'm also a marketing consultant for our clients. So I work with really great clients like Make-A-Wish and YouTube and a lot of other smaller organizations who are doing work with nonprofits or who are nonprofits themselves, who are really looking to create impact for the causes that they believe in. And so I feel really lucky to do the work that I get to do. And excited that I get to have cool experiences like doing this great webinar with two Indiegogo experts. So with that, I will make Bree the presenter here and turn it over to Bree and Leo.
Thank you. It's a treat to be here, and we're excited to delve in. Those questions were really helpful because I think that we have a lot of content that can be very appropriate for some of the things that you are thinking about as you head into holiday fundraising and upcoming fundraising campaigns. So just to do quick intros, I'm the gal on the left here with the brick behind me, and I have been at Indiegogo since December of 2012. Helping causes to raise funds across all sorts of different topic areas, from education and health and profit models, from nonprofits to social enterprises and personal fundraisers. I've gotten to know Leo. Leo Buck is the middle image here on this page, and he is the co-executive director at Common Vision. We will certainly get into a lot more about Common Vision and their work bringing orchards to schools and their recent Indiegogo campaign. So without further ado, I will jump right in. Today we are going to talk through the value of crowdfunding for social impact and then really delve in more deeply on how to frame a fundraiser effectively, create a draft, and then launch and engage with your fundraiser for the best success. So I mentioned I've been at Indiegogo. Just the quick story on what that means. Indiegogo was founded in 2008 as an open platform for people and organizations to pursue the change they want to see in the world. Our CEO founded it to raise funds more effectively for the Multiple Myeloma Foundation, which was a cause very personal to him, and causes have been central to our work ever since then. Most recently, we had seen our cause community grow so significantly and actually ask for specific features and pricing that we decided to launch a whole dedicated site explicitly for social impact fundraising. And we have called that site Generosity. You can see it at www.generosity.com. It's really fantastic because it has a look and a feel that's totally focused on social impact and yet brings all of the value of Indiegogo's large community with more than 200 countries and territories of campaigners and contributors and about 15 million visitors to the site every month and millions of people on our email newsletter to the social impact side. So we combine all of that strength of Indiegogo's community with a platform that has language and features and pricing for social impact explicitly. In particular, I would note that on Generosity, there are no Indiegogo platform fees compared to Indiegogo or most other sites out there where you will find a 5% fee. Generosity has no required fee, and instead, when donors contribute, they have the option to leave a gift for Generosity, but it's never required. So the only fees that a nonprofit will face on Generosity will be the third-party payment processing fees of 3% plus 30 cents per donation, which is quite standard for anywhere in the field, and you will find that fee there. So any kind of social cause can fundraise for free on Generosity. We just launched on October 21st, so it's quite new, but already we have seen a tremendous diversity of causes using the site and raising significant funds for the causes that are most important to them. One thing I would note is that we're very excited about Giving Tuesday at Generosity. In the past at Indiegogo, we have had more than 350 fundraisers raise more than $10 million for Giving Tuesday in 2014. And this year, we're excited to be running the Giving Tuesday efforts from Generosity so that participating nonprofits and social causes of all types that use Generosity have access to those 0% fees. We've also put together a really strong set of advice in the form of materials that we are sharing. And if you sign up at this site here, igg.me/givingtuesday, we will send those materials to you. It includes a draft creation toolkit with strong advice on how to put together a good draft of your fundraiser, a prep calendar for when you should be thinking about what steps in preparation and launch and activation of your Giving Tuesday fundraiser. And we're about to come out with a community engagement toolkit early next week. So sign up now and we'll make sure you get all that information. We'll also send this link as a follow-up to this webinar so that you have it for easy sign up. And we expect to see great things to come, including a dedicated newsletter we will send out to the millions of people on our list on Giving Tuesday, including Giving Tuesday participating fundraisers, social media promotion, all sorts of really neat things going on here at Generosity for Giving Tuesday. I'll share a few best practices as we go through here, but we can definitely talk more one-on-one with anybody who wants to think about their Giving Tuesday plan. All right, so let's jump into putting together a strong fundraiser. Why would you do this? Why would you do a crowdfunding campaign? Well, we find that organizations really find value in crowdfunding because it helps to increase their donor base, it helps to bring in new dollars, it helps to raise awareness about what they're doing, and ultimately, of course, that leads to more impact. You can also use crowdfunding to help you get information from your community. What do they care about most? Do they really get excited about a fundraiser that's for expanding your program in a certain geography, and you use that to help inform where you scale? Do they want to build out one program more than another? So that information gathering can be an important aspect as well. The fundraiser that I've pictured here is quite an exciting one. It was actually just written up in the New York Times over the weekend. The Girl Scouts of Western Washington had received a $100,000 gift from a major donor, but then that donor wrote in to request that that gift only be used for girls who are not trans, and the Girl Scouts said, actually, Girl Scouts is for every girl, and they returned the donation. So in order to make up that donation, they turned to, at the time, Indiegogo, and they said, hey, can you help us community to raise more than 100K to make up for this gift we've just lost? And actually, the fundraiser got a lot of traction in their community, and then broader communities rallied up behind them, and ultimately, the Girl Scouts of Western Washington were able to raise more than $300,000 for more than 7,000 donations to help them make up for this gift that they had lost. So you might be thinking, well, why would I crowdfund using a platform like Generosity when I could just use my own site? And what I have found is that a lot of organizations are still using a simple donate now button on their site, which really loses the opportunity to do two things. One is to have really strong social media integration so that we can help your existing community who participates in the fundraiser to share very effectively that fundraiser in their social media networks, drive their community to the fundraiser, and find and feel that urgency, that excitement that the generosity page will enable by virtue of the features that we're constantly building out and optimizing. The second thing that a platform really enables is the ability to reach a new audience. As I mentioned at Indiegogo, we have that 15 million people who come to the site every single month, and we're constantly communicating and sharing fundraisers with that community. So the opportunity to make a connection with a donor who you have never even met before or new to reach out to by virtue of those kinds of promotions that we are doing is really very strong and exciting. I've mentioned a couple other things here. We don't have the platform fees, so you won't be losing anything more by using the site. We also have tools to run the fundraiser on your own site. We have very strong APIs, so you can actually pull all of the data from your fundraiser and reflect that on your own site. And we can talk about even enabling donations on your own site if you want to make sure to do that. We also have really strong advice and support here at Generosity. We've been doing it for years, and our experts are amazing. I work with just the best team of strategists for fundraising, so they can give a personalized review to your fundraiser and help make sure you're set up for success. Okay, so you're thinking about your crowdfunding campaign and you're ready to put your fundraiser to reality and think through how you're going to frame it, which is really the first thing you need to think about. So to think through the frame, we have pulled up here Common Vision's goals. So Common Vision recently ran a fundraiser, and I'm going to actually just turn over the table to you, Leo, for a moment to talk through what were you hoping to achieve with your fundraiser. Oh, Leo, are you on mute? Maybe I don't think we can hear you.
I'm seeing a note that Leo sent to us that he was having some trouble with his audio, and I heard something from one attendee that they were having trouble with audio as well. So if you can hear us, would you mind sending a message in the chat to let me know that you can still hear us? And if not, then we can try switching over to something different. Let's see. Okay. We're hearing people can still hear us. So I think Leo's just logging out and going back in. Hopefully he'll still be able to hear.
A little bit. Leo, if you can hear, please jump in as soon as you are ready. Thankfully, Leo and I have worked closely in the past, so he has let me know a lot of what he was aiming to do. So I'll try to portray his purpose as well until he jumps on. So Common Vision wanted to change the lives of 1 million kids by providing the fresh food and education that is really needed. So they launched this fundraiser on what was Indiegogo at the time to lay the groundwork to grow their fruit tree orchards at 1,000 low-income schools. Now, what I love about this purpose is that it is very specific. You have very discrete numbers in this purpose, 1,000 low-income schools. I can get my head around that. And though it's very specific, it also sounds very inspiring. 1,000 schools, that sounds really big to me. So the fact that it is at the same time aspirational and also discrete is a really nice way to connect this purpose to something that I can get my head around and be excited about. Now, I would say that highlighting the financial goals that you're looking to achieve, as well as the awareness goals and program goals, are really important. So if you have a specific goal around bringing your message to a certain number of people by sharing the fundraiser a certain number of times, that can be a nice goal to be clear about. Are you looking to raise enough to put up a billboard for raising awareness in a specific location? That can be a great goal. For those of you who are looking to expand your program, that's exactly what Leo was doing with his fundraiser, and being clear about how much growth you're looking for and what that will mean in terms of the impact you're able to achieve is really important. So Leo really framed this well. Another key thing that I would share is that you want to make your frame very personal. Find a way to enable people who will see your fundraiser to really connect with it. And one of the nice things about a nonprofit running a fundraiser is that you have a lot of different perspectives that you can bring to the table to share. So not only do you have the beneficiary story, which is always great to share if you can do so. Maybe a beneficiary will create a short video, share a quotation, share some photos. Those kind of stories are really, really valuable to show your impact. You also can show the personal stories of the people who are supporting your work, and that can be your founder, it could be your executive director, a staff member, a board member or donor, or even a volunteer, and hearing them share their personal testimonial about why they put their time and their talent and their treasure behind your nonprofit is a very strong call to action to inspire others to do the same. Now, you can think about having those stories on your fundraiser at different points in time and in different ways. It might not be that you have all of those stories shared in your headline video, but maybe you share one story every couple of days as an update to your fundraiser, and you put together what I've called, and made up this term, an editorial arc, where you have several stories that you share over the course of the fundraiser, and by the end, you have a really nice wraparound set of perspectives showcasing why people are so inspired to participate in your work. Just to check real quick, Leo, if you're back on, I know that you helped to make your fundraiser personal in a really special way. Do you want to talk to that now?
Absolutely, and my apologies for the technical glitch there. My audio got disconnected for some reason. You can hear me okay, though?
I think so, yeah.
Outstanding. Well, for Common Vision, one of the things that we observed is that we had a really broad support base of former volunteers. Our work is largely volunteer-driven. Over the course of the last 4 years, we've had about 300 different volunteers. So one of the ways that we personalized it was on our campaign page, on the landing page on Indiegogo, we really kept an organizational tone. And then in recruiting our past and present volunteers to help do outreach throughout the campaign, we really encouraged people to tell their own individual stories to their communities about why this work was important. And so rather than leveraging sort of one personal story at the top level, we looked at utilizing the way people connect in their own social groups and using the stories of each individual to reach those groups.
Awesome. And we'll talk more about that strategy for engaging your community as we get a little bit further. For now, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you decided on your financial goal. We always recommend at Generosity that you think through a goal that is very attainable and aim to hit that and raise more than your goal, rather than starting with a goal that's very high and that it takes a lot of hard effort to get even a little bit of the way towards. And this is really because of the effect that we are demonstrating through this slide, where on the left you see a fundraiser that has raised 20K at 40% of its goal of 50K, and on the right you're seeing a 20K raise of a 150K goal, so it's at 13%. And just visually, we find time and again people will tell us the campaign on the left is more compelling because it looks like it has raised a higher percent of its goal, which people interpret as a stronger show of support for this initiative that gives it credibility, it gives it a social proof point that it is an important campaign, it has the potential to be successful, and it's something that others should get involved in. So to that end, we always recommend choosing a goal where you can hit about 30% of your goal within the first 48 hours after going live. And this does require thinking through your closest community and how much you expect them to donate right away. It often even means asking those people how much you will donate right away so that you know where you'll be after the first 48 hours, and you can then multiply that first 48-hour raise by 3 to get to a goal that will look achievable and actually help you to raise more ultimately over the course of the whole fundraiser. So Leo, what was your goal and how did you choose that?
So our goal for the campaign was $60,000, and like Bree just mentioned, the optics of that initial fundraising push are extraordinarily important in driving further engagement and further contributions. So for us to come to that, we looked at two things. We looked at the needs of our organization, right, which is always the primary decider for how much funds we're looking for in any given fundraising drive. But on top of that, we did an extensive round of preparing our existing donors for this campaign. So we did a tremendous amount of phone banking in the run-up to the campaign to gauge what sort of contributions we could expect from our existing donor base, with that goal in mind of hitting 1/3 of the first 48 hours. So we actually lined out the entirety of a $20,000 amount, a 1/3 with existing donors before the campaign even began, and we're able to multiply out what we anticipated raising based on that.
Great. So that's a really great point, that you need to make sure that your financial goal aligns with how much you can raise, so it has that sort of potential aspect built in, and then it also of course aligns to your program goals, and that the amount that you think you can raise is important enough to you to put your time and effort behind a fundraiser, and it will help you to achieve the program or awareness or other types of goals you're looking for. Because I strongly believe that anybody in any organization can run a good fundraiser at almost any point in their organization or personal timeline, and it's really more about putting the effort and time behind it. So you need to prioritize that, and your organization needs to prioritize that in order to make it a successful effort. So let's jump into thinking through your draft. Once you do have that frame, how do you put together your fundraiser to be successful? And one of the first things that we like to talk about is thinking through the different roles and responsibilities of a fundraiser. Now, certainly if you have a team of folks who are going to help you, that can be fantastic. That said, it can be that you are doing all of these steps, but making sure that you think through them is important. So some of the ways that we've seen people divide out the efforts and think through the different pieces of their fundraiser are across these roles I've mentioned here. Maybe you have somebody who is point for creating your video, somebody else who is point for social media, starting even before you launch to build up your social media following and have conversations with influencers in your fields, somebody who thinks through your different donation levels, what kinds of impact will you enable at different donation levels, and what kinds of rewards might you offer. Is there somebody who's good at infographics and can help to put together that visual aspect of your fundraiser page and updates you will create, and then of course the writing for your fundraiser page itself. And once you're live, this idea of customer service is a nice one, where you will be able to respond to people who write in with inquiries, answer social media questions, things like that. Leo, did you have a team supporting you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Did you have a team that you were working with, or were you doing all of these things on your own?
So for our structure, we had a couple of engaged board members who were tremendously helpful in the writing and design of the campaign. But in addition to that, we did outsource the video. A longtime supporter and volunteer was able to support us in making the video. So we wrote the script in-house. And I believe we'll talk about this more. We chose an animated video, and they were able to handle all the animation. The thing that I would add to these roles and responsibilities is to really look at how you're going to leverage not just your staff, not just your volunteer base, but also your existing donors as a networking point. So adding to this planning of roles and responsibilities, you really want to think about how everybody who's engaged in your organization, every stakeholder, can help you get the word out. So I would strongly add outreach to this, and make sure that you're just prepared to engage your entire community in that outreach endeavor.
Awesome. So when you're thinking through your story, the write-up that you will put together and the video that you will share, it's important to think through what is the key aspect of your fundraiser that you want to get across right away, because really people will decide whether they want to learn more or donate or leave your page after the first 30 seconds of either a video or reading your text. And we do find that you actually want to put that key information at the beginning of both both of those placements, because some people like to learn by watching a video, others prefer to read. So you want to put up front what you're raising funds for, what they will help you to achieve, and why people should get involved. So really have that summary. And then from there, you can go into more information, deeper context of the problem, deeper information about your solution and what you have done to date, a breakdown of your budget and what it will cost for you to achieve this, and then how people can be involved, both in terms of donating and also in terms of sharing your fundraiser with others. So keeping in mind that idea to be achievable, yet ambitious and inspiring, and sharing the opportunity to engage with your community is really important. We do this in terms of your write-up on the page, as I mentioned, where you really want to get across that project and why you're raising the funds, as well as establish your credibility and keep that connection to your potential donors here. So I've included the logos of a couple organizations, GuideStar and Great Nonprofits, because these organizations have write-ups about different nonprofits that help to establish credibility. You can include your GuideStar rating on your fundraiser page by linking to your page there. Same with Great Nonprofits, reviews of different nonprofits on their page. You can even include a quotation from a review that somebody might have left you on Great Nonprofits to help to establish that credibility on your page. And all the while, you do want to provide those points of connection. So I share on this page a quick cutout from the Common Vision. I believe this might have been in an update that they provided, where it's actually a letter from a student at a school, which helps the people looking at the page who probably haven't been to the schools or met the students Common Vision works with, a chance to have an insight into why the program is so valuable and actually see a student who really cared about the work that they helped to provide. You want to make the fundraiser write-up very visual, so it is good to break out different segments into different headers with images included in that write-up, so that it's not all one line of text, but rather helps people to stay engaged through different types of content throughout the page. Actually, maybe I'll just real quick ask, we hadn't necessarily planned this, but Bridgett, did you have any particular thoughts on the write-up side, given your expertise in content?
Yeah, I mean, I think authenticity, you have authenticity in here, and I think that that is one of the biggest things that we see with nonprofits is that there can be a tendency for nonprofits to be very self-directed in their communications and not necessarily be completely audience focused. And so that's something that we always try to emphasize with the nonprofits that we work with, is that when you're in any kind of communications that you're doing, thinking about the impact that it has on your audience, on the people who are donating to the campaign, on your constituents who have been supporting you before this campaign even launched. I think that that's something that can be really powerful, and that can not only help you in the campaign that you're running, but can help you in raising future donations as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That authenticity is so important. We find that sometimes nonprofits are so focused on the work that they're doing that they actually don't share their perspective as people. So for example, focusing entirely on a program and its impact is fantastic, but also sharing the perspective of you as a staff member and literally getting to the point of saying, I, as a staff member, have dedicated my time to work here because I care about this topic area, because I have a family member who was affected by the issue I'm addressing, and getting to that level of literally saying I is so powerful to help create that authentic connection, and it actually doesn't happen, I think, quite enough yet. So that's definitely an area to continue working on. In terms of the video, it's a very similar thing, I would say. You actually want to apply similar kinds of thinking to your video. Really don't make it any more than 3 minutes, because that's pretty much the max time you'll get anybody's attention, and really make sure to get the most important info up front. You don't need to spend a ton of money to hire a fantastic videographer. Of course, a nice video can be a nice ad, but really what's more important is making it personal. So it can simply be you or one of those other people who wants to share their story behind an iPhone, sharing why they are donating, why you should join them, why the work you're doing is important. That is very, very strong. We do find that nonprofit campaigns with videos do tend to raise more than those without, so I do think a video is helpful, but again, it can be quite simply put together, and as long as it's specific to the fundraiser and expresses your gratefulness, can be very effective. That said, we definitely see people take and interpret their videos in different ways, and Leo, did you want to share a bit more about the evolution of your video?
Absolutely. So we used a few different video types throughout the campaign. We used the person behind an iPhone method for a lot of updates throughout the campaign to add a little bit more of a personal touch. But for our overall video, we chose an animated structure for the majority of it in order to make it a little bit more universal. So again, a whole framework for our campaign was universal landing site, and then engaging our broader community to add personal touches to it. So by creating an animated video, we felt that we could sort of create an image that anyone could relate to, and do some more creative things in terms of how we got the message across, while also allowing our volunteers and community members to get the word out further with that personal touch.
And this is Bridgett. I can jump in on video as well, because that's definitely something that C3 works with a lot of nonprofits on, is not only creating videos, and actually, we do produce video at C3, but we also work with a lot of nonprofits on their video strategies. So thinking about video not only as a one-off video that you create for one particular event, but how do you see video working within your entire communication strategy for your nonprofit? And one thing that I love about Indiegogo and Generosity is that it gets nonprofits thinking about how they use video not only at the typical places where we see nonprofits using video, like the gala dinner events and potentially donor thank you videos, but actually thinking about how to use video to really drive people to action. And I think what you said, Bree, is really important to think about, not only for doing a fundraiser like on somewhere like Indiegogo or Generosity, but across a lot of nonprofit communications, is that video is really great at driving people to action. And you see campaigns that use video have a greater results than ones that don't. And so we know that video is a great way to distill a lot of information down into a short amount of time and to really have a big emotional impact on the viewer. So I think just getting more nonprofits to think strategically about their use of video through crowdfunding campaigns and throughout their communication strategy is something we're always trying to champion.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would say that it is important that those videos are specific to the particular fundraiser. One of the biggest mistakes I see is a nonprofit that repurposes an elegant video that they created for a gala and just simply throws it up onto the fundraiser page. Now, there might be pieces of that video that you can pull, but really having somebody talk to this fundraiser excuse me, at this point in time and why you're doing it right now is very important. So it is creating that authentic connection both through your fundraiser page, but your video as well. I love the idea of a video as a thank you note. That actually does bring us to the next topic quite nicely. The donation levels, what you might have heard of as perks, are very helpful in getting people to think through different levels of donation and how those different levels can have a different impact. We do find that the most frequently contributed level is $25. The level that tends to generate the most revenue is $100, and the average donation size is around $70. So thinking about different kinds of reward levels that you can set at these different dollar amounts can be quite helpful. You want to think through a variety of different donation level types. You can have some that are strictly impact, which mean that you don't need to actually provide anything physical in exchange for that contribution. Those are fantastic. Can a certain dollar level help you to sponsor a student to participate in your program for a week? Things like that. You also can offer digital rewards that give a very simple way for you to supply something in return to people who donate. For example, the App Camp for Girls in Washington would offer people who contributed at a certain level a background to their iPhone that the girls actually coded during the camp. So it was a very personal, very special connection, but very simple for them to provide, and they didn't have to spend a lot of dollars or time organizing, sending out that reward to people. Of course, if you do have a physical item, that can be nice. Sometimes you can get those donated by companies, or you might have an experience that perhaps your founder wants to host people for dinner, things like that. Those are really special, and I would just say overall to think through how you can make your donation levels very personal to the fundraiser so that people feel connected to them. Leo, are there things that you would add about your donation level experience?
Absolutely. So as far as perks go, one of the things that we found very useful throughout the campaign was to roll out new perks and have featured perks. So there's a feature on the platform there where you can set a perk as the featured perk, and it's at the top of the perk list, and you can leverage that out in your social media posting. And what we found was there were a few times where we could anticipate that we would have contribution lulls throughout the campaign. So we planned for a very aggressive first week in terms of fundraising, but we knew that the following week there would be a lull. So we strategically placed a few really great perks, like in the bottom right-hand corner here, you see the Synergy Organic Clothing gift certificate. That was a perk where you contributed $100 to the campaign, and you got a $100 gift certificate for a clothing company. So we were able to strategically place some of these high-value perks in order to maintain momentum throughout the campaign in spots where we knew there would be lulls.
That's a great idea. And perks are one way to punctuate those lulls. You could also post different kinds of updates, perhaps have in-person events. There are a lot of different ways, which actually we can start to talk about more as we think through how to launch with momentum and then keep that momentum up. So I want to definitely have Leo jump in here because I would say, Leo, you and Common Vision were absolutely really superstars in engaging your community, and this page shares some of the ways to communicate, and I've laid them out in what I have found to be sort of chronological order: in person, moving down through telephone, email, social media, then once you're live, going through updates and PR and other means of sharing. So Leo, can you walk us through your plan and how you used these ways to communicate with your community?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we took a sort of long view approach to running this campaign, which is to say that 2 months before it, we had a series of community events for our stakeholders regionally that were really very casual events. So we had in the Bay Area, in the Nevada City area, in Sacramento, we had these community barbecues essentially where we invited volunteers and donors and all of our stakeholders to come together. And really, we didn't pitch them barely at all. It was come out, have some barbecue, have a beer, hang out, get to know each other. And we said, oh yeah, by the way, there's this crowdfunding thing coming up in a month and a half. We're going to need your help with it. We really left it there for that. So that was our first step in sort of engaging our broader community. Our next step was to pick up the phone and start asking people what we could count on them as far as outreach and as far as contributions. And these bullet points on this slide are not only in chronological order, but they're also in conversion rate order. So you're going to have the most success converting people in person, converting supporters into donors in person. The next is going to be telephone, then email and private messaging on social media, then posting, right? So obviously in-person takes too long to do for everyone. But if you segment your contributor list, your donor list, and your supporter list who you expect to help get the word out by sort of capacity and of what level they can give, you can start to look at, who needs those in-person touches, who needs those telephone touches. From there, in the run-up to the launch, like I said earlier, we secured a third of the contributions, mostly via telephone and in person, in order to launch the campaign strong. In addition to that, we had sort of our entire amplifier network, everyone who's going to make phone calls and get on social media and encourage people to give, prepared for the launch of the campaign so that we could just come out with an utter barrage of Facebook content. We spent a little bit of money on Facebook advertising and just made sure that if you were in Common Vision's sphere of influence on social media at all, you were guaranteed to know that this crowdfunding campaign was happening and guaranteed to know why it was important. Using all of those community touch points is just incredibly valuable. One of the stories from our campaign is you never know where additional contributions are going to come from. So one of our former volunteers posted on a random Facebook group that she was a part of, hey, check this out, regarding our campaign. And the next day I got a phone call from a family foundation saying, hey, we want to match the entire balance of the rest of your campaign. So if you can raise the last $25,000 of your campaign, we'll match it. Obviously, results may vary, and you can't necessarily guarantee an additional $25,000 contribution, but getting the word out far and wide through all your community touch points can be incredibly valuable.
And Leo, this is Bridgett.
Amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better example.
I just wanted to mention too, I heard Leo say that he spent a little bit of money on Facebook ads. And I think, if you are going to spend for the nonprofits who are on and who are thinking about doing some advertising around a campaign like this, if you are going to spend some money on advertising, we've just seen tremendous takeoff in video advertising, both through YouTube pre-roll ads and through video on Facebook. And so, just a little bit of money, but if you already are creating a video for these campaigns, a little bit of money behind those videos through Facebook ads or a YouTube pre-roll ad can go a very long way and can reach a lot of people. So that's just one more way to maximize, that community outreach.
Absolutely, and the cost per view is incredibly low, at least with Facebook. I think with $60, we managed to get an additional something like 40,000 impressions on the post. So it goes a long way. And additionally, I believe I just saw that Facebook is finally rolling out a program similar to Google Grants, where nonprofits are eligible for free post boosting up to a certain limit through applying for a grant from Facebook.
Cool. I think that we've talked through some of these places. I might just highlight that as you think through that, after you get that initial momentum from that very targeted outreach that you do to your closest community, and you have that about 30% raised at least, then's the time you can start going to broader networks to engage them as well. You'll naturally get more promotion on Indiegogo or Generosity site once you start to get that momentum rolling, because we use a method they call the go-go factor to take into account how much social engagement a fundraiser has and then promote it across our touch points, such as the ones that are listed on this page. It's also a time when industry press and local press are more likely to want to cover your fundraiser. We find that they don't often like to cover a fundraiser when it has no dollars raised. They prefer to share something that is already trending. So it's at that point where you already have some momentum that it's a good time to reach out to your local reporters and share with them by email as well as by social media, because a lot of them are using Facebook and Twitter to find stories to cover, and share with them what you're doing and why they should care, and share it with their community. It's also a time to go to offline events. Maybe you have neighborhood meetups that you would share your fundraiser at. We often find that alumni networks and corporate networks will strongly support each other. So are there people who are involved in your fundraiser who are part of those networks who could get the word out and generate additional momentum? And then occasionally you will find a celebrity who wants to be involved, whether it's somebody who's a local celebrity or an industry celebrity or a more mainstream one, and their involvement can be helpful, though they might not be as game-changing as you might think, because we do find that celebrities are best used when they're highly engaged. Leo, do you want to talk anything about the involvement of performer Jason Mraz for yours?
Absolutely. So Jason Mraz has been a supporter of ours for a couple of years here, and during the campaign, he expressed a willingness to make a couple of videos encouraging folks to contribute to the campaign. What we found was that honestly, much like any given person who's saying, I want you to support this, the message is much, much more powerful if they have made a contribution. So for whatever reason, the psychology of I want you to support this, much, much more powerful if they're saying, I'm going to match your contributions today, or I've already given even $5, $10, $20, or many thousands of dollars. Either is fantastic. But if any given person, whether they're a celebrity or an individual with less notoriety, can say, I've contributed to this campaign, here is why I want you to contribute too, the message becomes much, much more powerful than just, I'm hoping you'll support this.
Definitely, and you mentioned that idea of a match or incentive level contribution, and this has come up a couple times now, that if you have a donor, whether it's a foundation or an individual who is willing to offer some sort of urgency for additional donors, that can be very helpful. And maybe it's that they say, if we raise $10,000 today, then I'll donate $10,000. Or maybe it's that they say, if we get 100 donors today, then I'll give $1,000. Whatever it may be, that kind of incentive can be very helpful, and it's something that you can share as an update to your fundraiser. And the more you can direct that message and those dollars through the fundraiser, the more incentivizing it will be. This is a particularly nice tactic to use on Giving Tuesday itself. One of the most important things I would highlight about Giving Tuesday is that it's ideal to be going from a level of already engaged community and amplify that on Giving Tuesday rather than start with zero. So to that end, we're strongly recommending that fundraisers launch in November, preferably before Thanksgiving, to get that early momentum and about 30% of their goal, so that people who come to the page who are less familiar with your work are excited to participate, and you already have that social proof point on Giving Tuesday. So if you have a donor who might be willing to do this kind of incentive contribution, lining that person up for Giving Tuesday is a good idea. So go live before Thanksgiving, get some initial momentum, and then on Giving Tuesday say, if we can expand our donor base to X number of donors or Y number of dollars, then our generous donor will come in with a Giving Tuesday contribution of X $1,000. That's a really strong message. So then you can get that level, thank your donors, and continue and round out the fundraising through the rest of December. Now, all of this is in our Giving Tuesday prep calendar, which, again, I mentioned is available if you sign up online. Yeah, Leah, what were you going to share?
I was going to share that with those matching contributions, particularly over the course of a long campaign, our campaign was 40 days, the importance of finding new ways to create urgency throughout the campaign can't be stressed enough. And those matching contributions are a fantastic way to create new urgency. New perks are a great way to create new urgency. But over the course of a 40-day campaign, your closest supporters, maybe not your closest, but your next tier of supporters, are likely going to get sick of seeing your content unless you can create new ways for people to go, oh man, there's really a reason why they're pumping this content towards me right now. They have 48 hours to do this thing or else it's not going to work. So finding those ways to create new urgency throughout the campaign are incredibly valuable, not just in terms of converting donations, but in terms of keeping your community engaged and involved, the multiplier effect of which can't be underestimated.
It's a great point. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our core content. I'd love to turn it back over to Bridgett if there's anything else you wanted to share now, or open it to questions.
Great. Yeah, I would, excuse me, I would love to open it up to questions. I actually see one here from Arnon. So he asked, what are the top 3 actions during the course campaign that have made donations peak, and which ones have made traffic peak? So I think we mentioned some of those, but Leo and Bree, do you want to speak to that a bit more?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you can have all sorts of different reasons that can help to provide peaks in terms of traffic and donation. I do think that it relates to the idea of urgency and building that in. So finding different kinds of announcements and mini initiatives that you run throughout the duration of the fundraiser are important. So you'll naturally get some momentum at launch, especially if you've ramped up and planned well, as Leo did, to get your community primed to know that this is coming and that you're relying on them to help you get it off to a good start. So that's going to be a natural peak. And I think that then you can provide other peaks by offering things like these incentive donations, like updates that you post to the fundraiser, because those will trigger an email to your donors and you can ask them to share. Having social media content that you share that's really personal and doing an initiative around that can be helpful. So Giving Tuesday in and of itself is an opportunity for a peak because you can incite urgency around that one day. Those are just a few ideas that are coming to mind. Our community engagement toolkit, which is coming out early next week, will have a lot of other ideas for how to provide these. I like this idea of a peak during the fundraiser.
Great. And if there are other questions, we have about 5 minutes left, so feel free to enter those questions in that questions field. Something I've been wondering, a question for both of you. So I know we're really excited about Giving Tuesday, and that's right around the corner, and Indiegogo and Generosity are a great resource for that. But from your experience doing crowdfunding in the past, are there other times as our attendees are planning for 2016, are there other times throughout the year that is a good time to be doing a crowdfunding campaign?
Leo can talk to when he did his for sure, because it was not a Giving Tuesday fundraiser actually, and he managed to do a fantastic job. Just a couple quick notes from my view. We definitely see that launching your fundraiser on a Monday or Tuesday is good because people are often at their computers, at their desks, able to jump in and help out by donating and sharing. Launching later in the week and on weekends or holidays is not a good idea because so many people are not at their computers, which is one reason why I suggested launching before Thanksgiving, because people will be eating turkey instead of being at their computers on that holiday. So that's definitely something we've learned. That said, I think you can have a strong fundraiser at any time of year. We see an annual cadence to some of our fundraisers, like the camps who run fundraisers every spring in preparation for their summer camp programming, or people who run fundraisers around certain holidays, like an International Women's Day fundraiser in March, or a fundraiser around Valentine's Day. But you don't really actually need to have any specific holiday that's a global initiative, as long as you make the timing work for you and your community. When will your community be engaged? When do you think they will be open to learning about this? When will they be at their computer and willing to delve in a digital way? So those are some of the things to think about.
Great. And I'm actually, oh, go ahead, Leo.
I was going to say that we picked what by conventional wisdom is an atrocious time for fundraising, mid-July through the beginning of September. But looking at our specific donor base, we felt that it was an appropriate time to approach them, and a time of year when people don't have donor fatigue. Obviously January into the beginning of February is the other time of year that people generally consider a atrocious time to go out and try to do fundraising. But looking at knowing your donor base, combining that with the conventional wisdom on when fundraising is appropriate, and looking at your program cycle and seeing when your staff and stakeholders can be available to really support the campaign. And in addition to that, when you can create a sort of, again, that sense of urgency around programming. Summer camps that fundraise in April and May, for example, is doing a good job executing based on that urgency.
Great, and I'm seeing a bunch of questions come in here now, so we will get to as many as possible in the next 3 minutes. And if not, you can also, our email addresses are ways to reach us there, so you can also follow up with us that way. So someone asked, what are the most common red herrings in a campaign? So things that you think will be big hits, but are usually big duds. So that might be more of a question for Bree, having a lot of experience there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think the celebrity one is an interesting one because a celebrity needs to be involved in a deep way in order to make a big impact. So even if you have a big celebrity, if they're only willing to share one tweet, that's not really going to be very impactful. So that's one. Other things that could be a big hit but are big duds. I think that if you have a site with 100,000 Facebook followers, that seems like it's going to be a huge success. We find that Facebook is the #1 source of traffic to Generosity. But that said, if those people have become followers in an inauthentic way, maybe you've purchased them through ads or things like that, that won't be as helpful as a smaller audience who is deeply engaged and cares about your work. So it's really about having that connection of people who care deeply as opposed to a high volume of people who are lightly engaged, or one person who's a celeb who's lightly engaged. Those are a couple things that come to mind.
I
Mm-hmm.
would I would add to that that the red herring that we experienced with our first crowdfunding campaign, which was not nearly as successful as our most recent, is a line of thinking along crowdfunding is magic. There's a lot of people who attempt crowdfunding campaigns, and we were among them initially, who sort of think you throw this thing up on the internet and the money magically starts to come in. And from our experience, if you run a really solid traditional fundraising and outreach campaign, you can expect a really, really nice bump from leveraging crowdfunding effectively. But it has to start with a really effective sort of traditional fundraising campaign.
Great. And so we have one more question here, and then any of the other questions I will either follow up with you after, or feel free to email me or Bree directly. But I think this is a good one to end on, because I think there are a lot of people who are excited about putting a Giving Tuesday campaign together. But now that we're a little bit short on time. So someone asked, what tips would you offer to a shorter term Giving Tuesday campaign? So like 1 to 10 days in length.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that there is still time to put together an initiative. What I would say is that you should still put it towards something that's important to you. So choose a piece of your work that's important enough that your community will engage around it, but make it discrete enough that it's something that you can achieve in this short amount of time. So that might mean that you choose a goal of just a few $1,000s for your fundraiser rather than 10 or more. And you start there, you frame it by you might choose one particular person whose story we will share in the fundraiser, and then amplify that one story. For example, who is one donor who you already know is going to give you a gift of, let's say, $500 this holiday season? Ask that one donor, would you be willing to, instead of making your gift via check, contribute through the generosity fundraiser and create a 30-second video on your iPhone that we can use as a fundraiser page to get the word out about your support for us and encourage others to do the same. So just get something that's very achievable and put that onto the page and pre-wire your small community to share that fundraiser on Giving Tuesday itself. So I think it's about choosing the financial scope and choosing just a few cornerstone people to support it that will help you to have a good first run here, and actually help you, as Leo did, to learn what works for you in your community. And then for your next fundraiser, you can really take that to the next level in terms of scope and size.
Okay, great. And so it's 12:01, so I think we'll have to leave it there. So thank you so much for everyone who attended. For those of you who asked questions that we did not get to yet, we'll follow up with you shortly. And thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you again to Bree and Leo for sharing so many great insights with us today.
Thanks for having us. Wonderful to be here. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.